The bigger a problem, the more complex the solution required to tackle it. As the security situation across Nigeria continues to pose more threats, the federal government has been tasked to boost the capacity of the military and the police to deal effectively with such. At a gathering in Lagos, security experts and analysts like human rights lawyer Femi Falana and Babajide Kolade-Otitoju advised the new government of President Bola Tinubu to procure more arms for security agencies to take the war against terrorism to the doorstep of the enemies. Let's hear from them.
The factor again that we must factor is that the efficiency of the security architecture depends on a politically driven security governance service, the service system, which is provided by constitutional mandated defense. Security and intelligence agencies that are structured, qualified, equipped, and professionally managed.
The solution to our security problems lie here in our country. We just need to find the methods that work. And I believe that if the government is availed all of what we talked about today, they will find the ideas that are best suited for the situation that we find ourselves.
By virtue of Section 14 of the Constitution, Section 14, subsection 2, the security and welfare of the people of Nigeria shall be the primary purpose of government. That, for me, encapsulates the entire discussion today. You can't talk of security architecture if you are not going to address the welfare of the people, So you can't be talking about physical security without discussing social security. And social security is much more important. If the people are poor, if they are frustrated, if they are disenchanted, they are going to take to crimes.
Technology is what we call a force multiplier. What that means is that if I'm standing here, I can only see so far out. But if I send technology, if I send a drone, if I have cameras that are up there, it can survey a place even longer, it can survey it further. So what we're saying is that technology enhances the solutions that we're providing, and it's important that we leverage on that today.
Wow. Julie, security.
Yes, security.
Security. You are security.
Okay, they didn't hear what you said.
All right. Now, tell us what this conference is about.
Oh, it's the Department of Sociology, UNILAG, that organized this JoJo session on security. Everyone wants us to defeat insecurity in our country. And remember, the president said that he will prioritize security in that meeting with the service chief. So what we did at this conference was to kind of lay the foundation for successful prosecution of the war against terror and war against banditry by telling the president what needs to be done. As you can see, the time where the woman that spoke last, her own focus was on how you can leverage on technology, to gather intelligence assets, drones, to locate and pinpoint the exact location of bandits and terrorists so that they can be dealt severely with. And of course, someone like the former CP of Lagos State,
Fatai
Osheni, said, look, every society gets the kind of law enforcement it deserves, and he harped on the need to motivate the police, because this time around, some of the roles that the police should be playing are actually being played by soldiers.
Yes.
But if we equip the police sufficiently and we provide them with the needed, we care about their welfare, definitely they will give their best. He was also talking about poor funding of the police, poor funding of police divisions, police formations, and all that. A situation in which a DPO lacks the money with which he needs to run his police formation is not good for crime fighting. Because that's why you see policemen on the road turning themselves to Alagbe, asking everybody for money and all that. So we cause some of these problems. And you see Femi Falana said it is the responsibility of government to provide security for the citizens. And one of the speakers too said, look, for us to succeed in the war against insecurity, we have to look at a lot of the assets that are wasting away. He was talking about retired soldiers, retired policemen. A lot of them retire as early as maybe 55 years. Honestly. And
underutilized.
Underutilized. So he's saying that, look, you can actually still use some of these people. And he's saying beyond the armed forces, private security outfits can play their part, including even community policing, in ensuring that we have a much more secure country. And I agree. We can't leave this to the police and the army alone. That point, I made that point clear, that in this situation that we found ourselves, every Nigerian has to play his part. If you see crime being committed and you fail to raise an alarm, you are an accomplice. You are an enabler of insecurity. So we have to play our part and stop constantly blaming our security operatives every time things go wrong. But the issue of funding, the issue of equipping of the troops, I think everybody agree that the president should build on that. President Buhari bought some game-changing weapons for the army.
To prosecute the war.
His successor has to follow, consolidate on that. I think he also made a promise that in the area of infrastructure he will sustain the tempo. So that is what it was well organized. And look, the success of it, coming from a university, a department at the university, I think master students of sociology and
Faculty of Social Science.
What we came up with, honestly, if they can just put everything together and give the people in government, it will be very, very useful to them.
Tiken, I want a day that I will be able to see the police taking over entirely internal security of this country. I don't want our military to be engaged in 30 states out of 36 states, private operations around the country.
I agree with you. The primary responsibility, that is their primary responsibility as given to them by the Constitution. Internal security is the job of the police, while the military, the police, the army, the Air Force, and the Navy are supposed to care for external aggression against the country. That is what the Constitution says. Then other sister agencies like the DSS, like the other agencies, security agencies, supposed to complement the job of the police. But that is where we are. One, the fact remains is that we are under police. We are totally under police. If you look at the population of Nigeria and you know the United Nations policy on policing, we are nowhere close to what we're supposed to be. That is one. Two, that means we have to increase our recruitment drive. Tied to that is that how do we recruit? So what type of people would you recruit? So that we don't recruit right people, not just recruiting people, but making sure that we recruit the right people. And the right people, we only recruit the right people by having the best of motivation to be able to motivate them. The police should not be an institution for dropouts or people who don't have other jobs to do. That just take policing, a police job as a last resort. I just graduated, some of my classmates were senior members of the Nigerian police. Fantastic guys. Very, very brilliant. Intelligent, superb. Anyway, even as they talk, most of them, they beat me for class to show you how tough really most of our policemen. we have some of the best policemen in the world. And it's a fact, which is why when they go out, you see them excelling. Not just police, our military, our soldiers and the rest of them. You go to foreign peace mission, most often than not, you see that out of several soldiers, they use a Nigerian to head those units. That is how good our military men are. So mine is that, are they being motivated enough to be able to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do? Tied to that, also their insurance, their life. A policeman goes out in the morning, doesn't know whether he will come back in the day, and knowing fully whether if he dies, whether the gratuity and everyone would be paid his family. So that in itself, so before we start going to the point of, oh, they are standing at the road, collecting 20 naira. I made a trip recently from the southeast to this, and I saw a lot of policemen on the road.
Checkpoints.
Yeah, at checkpoint. Left to that, but what baffled me most, apart from them being at the checkpoint, is that during the rain, during the sun, these guys are on those spots.
Yes.
That is what we should be looking at, beyond just saying they collect, why can you stand on the sun for 2 hours? So those are the issues for me. Now, if we'll be able to do that, then another aspect of it is trust. There's a trust deficit between the security agencies and the civilians. Why it is more difficult for a Nigerian to have an information and try to pass it to Nigerian police.
At all.
BK, you know that very, very well.
Yes. It can be dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Yes.
BKO, you will know that in the UK, as a black man, as somewhere you find yourself in certain part of London, and you are just moving around anyhow. And within that period, you'll be shocked that somebody just sitting, an old woman sitting by her window, have noticed you, and said that this man's face is not familiar. You will call the police, and before you know, they meet you there. So those are the issues. When we're able to build that trust, then you can see that Nigerians will be volunteering information. There have been instances when you give information to police, report somebody that has committed a crime, only for the person to get to know the reported, get to know of the information that you saw what happened with those that break out from the prison recently. BK, remember vividly the prison. So one of the guys, after he left the prison, quickly went back to the village and killed the man that reported him. That led to him
they testified against him in court.
Was that
not why we said that the idea of televising presidential, even the witnesses would not stand in the door. When you put camera in their face, they will run away.
So those are the issues. So there is a lot of problem, but I hope and I believe that the next set of security chiefs, which I'm sure the president within the next few maybe months or latest 1 year should be able to change, to be able to inculcate this kind of idea within the security agencies, and there will be inter-agency collaboration, which the president has mentioned in his first meeting with the security chiefs. Once we can be able to achieve that, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot in our fight against insecurity.
All right. The agriculture